Thank you, Dave. Let me first say what an honor it is as a cultural practitioner and as a student to be part of this event, especially alongside such luminaries of TNT culture. This panel seeks to answer the question, can TNT's Carnival be used as a point of departure in creating a national policy on diversity and multiculturalism? The short answer is yes. Carnival, as this country's largest cultural festival, must be part of any basic framework for cultural policy. It is notable that TNT has never had an official policy for Carnival, as without a proper map, a real sense of origin, direction, and destination, our Carnival can only drift and could fall prey to developments that see the few prospering at the expense of the national interest. Multiculturalism as an approach to policy seeks to ensure representation of diverse groups so that resources and space are shared. Participation in Carnival is inherently a staking out of space. Big bands or small groups and individuals say, look me. It is the validation of self and community on the national stage. The local Catholic Church's decision to bring out a Carnival band this year gives evidence to the importance of the Carnival space to declare presence, to create relevance, and cement a sense of unity, of community. Carnival is often held to be a democratic space where all are free to make their statement. Even the decision not to participate is a statement. But is Carnival truly democratic with equal opportunity for all? Or is it rather that Carnival is a battleground? Those that have political control, status, power, and money versus those that do not. A historical perspective shows that the issue of space has always been with us. Mardi Gras versus Camp-Blé, that is, Carnival as a spectacle, celebrating pomp and color, as opposed to masquerade as a declaration of revolution and fight for freedom. Ruling classes versus Janet culture. The colonial masters enjoyed their carnival while the poorer classes and those living on the fringes created their own forms of expression. Big bands versus small. Bands with thousands of members take center stage while others are relegated to the periphery and have to work around them, competing for prime time on stage. Paying masqueraders versus street revelers. Bands and elite sections are roped off and bouncers hired to keep out non-members. The marginalization of traditional characters. Old-time mass is receding to occupy smaller and smaller space as more of the spotlight falls on big bands and pretty mass. Music trucks versus pan. Steel band, the national instrument, finds itself squeezed out as most bands employ DJs on music trucks. Pan as people's expression or as high-priced party draw for elites. Panorama organizers plan the event with the intention to make money, while many in the communities that have birthed pan culture suffer the consequence of not being able to afford access to the festival. All-inclusive culture. As the focus on the carnival dollar leads to increased expectation of added services, all-inclusive parties have become more desirable. VIP, VVIP, ultra, super, mega, all-inclusive.
Hyper. Don't forget hyper.
Cheaper public fetes are seen as dangerous and carry less status. We've even seen some efforts to close down some of the fetes that have been institutions for a long time. Town versus country. Resources are generally centered in Port of Spain, and celebrations in smaller communities have been languishing with decreased participation, fear of crime, lack of patronage for prizes, etc. But Carnival has traditionally presented a space for the voice of the underdog in society to be heard. Earl Lovelace describes a 1960s Carnival scenario in his new book, It's Just a Movie. They would find their way into Tokyo Steel Band, all of them, the streets of the city their own for this one time of the year, so they have nothing to fear. Nobody could touch them. Lord Kitchener relayed the same sentiment in his Calypso, The Road Made to Walk, on Carnival Day, while Rudder captures a similar sense of emancipation in his Carnival Woman, who throws off the shackles of her life to become the freest of women in all the world. Inside the Carnival arena, behavior that's normally frowned upon, like heavy drinking, lewd dancing, cross-dressing, and near nudity, is socially sanctioned. Segments of society labeled as deviant or criminal can play themselves. The Juve space especially is an inversion, a celebration of what is normally kept in the dark, a turning the status quo on its head. At Carnival, we say it doesn't matter who you are, what group you're from, or your social status. Everybody could dingulate. But while this culture of freedom to identify and express self, of inclusion and of letting difference be, has been one of the most enriching aspects of Trinidad Carnival, it may be under threat. The price of Carnival costumes keeps climbing, and major events are geared towards those who can afford them. In recent years, mass on television looks more and more like a celebration of big bands, beads, and bikinis. Coverage often does not portray the diversity of portrayals on the street. Last year's contest over rights to televise mass begs the question, who owns Carnival? Is it owned by those with money, the massive bands, the upper classes, the big trucks, or does Carnival belong to everybody? How can a national Carnival policy ensure that the interests of diverse groups are represented? Multiculturalism typically seeks to ensure representation for various ethnic and other groups. But as an approach, it does not address TNT's unique cultural mixing and blending. Our culture is characterized more by cultural merging than by separateness. And so an approach that attempts to satisfy ethnic interests or to allocate resources based on separation is ill-suited for our needs. A more cohesive approach that takes into account the ever-evolving whole is what is called for. Yet, how can we ensure that different voices from different levels of society can be heard? The People's Band idea, put forward by Minister of Arts and Multiculturalism, Winston Gypsy Peters, represents an attempt to democratize the mass, to make participation more accessible to the masses of people who are shut out by the exorbitant prices of some conventional bands. Yet, the People's Band has met with a largely negative or mixed response, and Culture Ministry staffers seem to have little or no information on plans for the band. Band leaders fear loss of business. This should not be a problem for large, high-priced bands, as a free band would necessarily cater to a segment of society outside their client base. But for small bands, the impact could be significant. Still, band loyalty may be a significant factor. Perhaps the idea of the band has been too politicized. Some people anticipate a free-for-all. Some have voiced fears over crime, unsavory elements, etc. But perhaps the People's Band can indeed help to address the problem of more democratic access to mass. It presents opportunities to promote and preserve aspects of the national carnival culture that have become endangered by the focus on making money from mass. The ministry can pre-register organized groups of masqueraders and provide logistical support, music, and information. It can encourage participation with prizes for the best portrayals, pan-sides, rhythm sections, drummers, etc. from different communities, as well as traditional mass characters like Moko Jumbies, Jab-Jabs, fancy sailors, bats, devils, and Indians could be encouraged with incentives to form part of the band, thereby helping to preserve historical mass forms. As a major national festival, Carnival does indeed provide a context for addressing cultural diversity in TNT. It provides perhaps the best opportunity to do so. But while Carnival may be addressed as part of an official policy, it cannot be the only area of emphasis or focus. Issues of religion, gender, ethnicity, etc. need more attention outside the Carnival space. What is desirable perhaps is a specific Carnival policy to address issues of the preservation of national cultural heritage and to ensure that the various interests and stakeholders are given the support they need and all can benefit within the Carnival space. Thank you.